Hey guys, August Lights Perfume here. Welcome back to the channel. Now this is going to be the last video, the last installment in our mini perfumery course. So in this video we're going to be I'm going to demonstrate how you actually make a perfume. The process is actually really simple. There's no technical work involved. Obviously, as you may already know, we're just going to mix everything into this bottle is what we're going to do. But before we actually make the perfume and go in that direction, I want to discuss a couple of things with you. Let me just adjust my camera a little bit. Excuse me. So the first thing I want you to do right off the bat is keep a perfumer's journal, right? It's just a thin notebook. It doesn't need to be too big or thick, which you're going to be noting your findings in, your conclusions and reports and all your recipes and formulations in, right? You want to note them down so that you don't forget. Everything interesting that you come across on your perfumery journey is going to be noted down in that notebook. Alright, next we're going to be discussing the things that you need to get started. Right, this is the actual practical demonstration, so obviously we need to talk about your investment. Now the goal is to keep the investments to a minimum, so I'm also going to be telling you the things which you do not necessarily need to invest in. The first thing that you definitely want to invest in are a pair of good rubber gloves, right? They don't necessarily have to be rubber, but I recommend that you invest in good quality gloves because you don't want toxic chemicals and fragrance components on your skin, on your hands, right? The next thing I want you to invest in are funnels like these, right? You will understand soon as to why do I want you to invest in funnels. The third thing I want you to invest in, you might want to invest in beakers like these, like different sizes, multiple beakers. Get like 4, 5, 6 of them maybe. Different sizes, like 250 ml one here. You could get 100 ml beakers, 50 ml, 20 ml beakers, different sizes, just so you have accurate measuring, containers to measure things in. Now, the next thing that I want you guys to invest in are these little decant bottles. Now, I like to call them little sample bottles. For example, this is a 10 ml bottle, which I've showed you before. And what this allows you to do is make little samples of your perfume, because sometimes you want to make the perfume to actually test a lot of things. The thickness of it, the quality of it, the actual texture of the perfume, and how exactly does it smell, how milky does it get, how transparent it is, how cloudy it is, and the color of the perfume. All of those you cannot actually test using the test strips that a lot of YouTubers and perfumers out there allow you to, they tell you to buy, they tell you to experiment with. The advantage of using these over test strips is obviously that you have every single piece of information about the perfume available, and you know exactly how it's going to feel and look like when you make it, because you don't want to be making them in big bottles first, because if you don't like the perfume that you made, then all of those ingredients will go to waste, comparing it to making like these little 10 ml samples. You minimize the wastage. So the next thing that I want you guys to invest in are obviously these bigger 100 ml bottles like this. Let me show you the cap. I've taken the cap off. That's the cap. This is the actual 100 ml bottle here. To make your exact perfumes, 100 ml is a good place to start because everything is easy. You know this bottle is 100 ml, so everything that's gonna go in here is gonna be 100 ml. The next thing I want you guys to invest in is a pack of graduated pipettes, or multiple packs. This is a 100 pack. Now what these are is, wait, let me show it to you real quick. These are just plastic droppers like these, right? So you just put it into your fragrance component like this, you take them out and you drop it. A lot of the tutorials and forums out there tell you to use this method by Mandy of Tell, and she's a very respected perfumer out there, and they tell you this beginner friendly method of using drops. Now in my opinion, that is an inferior method for beginners. That doesn't, I mean, it definitely does work. But it's not as accurate as this method is going to be, because you see these pipettes are actually labeled. That is the half ml label, and that is the 1 ml label, and that is the 2 ml label. If you can see it, these are actually labeled, so you exactly know how many ml of what chemical that you're using, you're taking out and dropping into your beaker or your bottle that you're making the perfume in. So these are essentially all the necessary things that you need. Now, I'm going to be talking about some things which you don't necessarily need. First of them being a digital measuring scale, right? But it's really helpful if you're an intermediate, but even if you're an intermediate, you don't really need it. You can work fairly accurately with the things that I've told you about right now. So you don't really need a scale, but if you have the money lying around, if you really are taking this seriously and you want to invest in a scale, I would say go for it. The second thing which you don't necessarily need is a mini refrigerator. Now, whoa, where did that come from? Because no one really talks about the process of storing the perfume. You see, once you've done making a perfume, for example, this perfume, I let it rest for around 4 weeks, so that is around 30 days. And that is only when your perfume is complete. You can't just make a perfume and start applying it and be like, wow, this perfume is done and ready to use. That is like, wow, I cannot understand how can people skip through that process, and no one talks enough about this process. So back to the topic at hand. So storage of the perfume should ideally be done in a refrigerator, but you can just keep it in any cool and stable place, free of dryness and humidity. But storing it in a refrigerator is definitely obviously ideal. But you can use the refrigerator that you obviously have. All right, you don't have to invest in a separate mini fridge right off the bat. So that is going to be it for all the talking and rambling. Now let's get to actually making the perfume. So before that, let us discuss the actual formula that we're going to be using. The ratio, first of all. Step one is to decide a ratio. Now our ratio is going to be 50% base notes, 30% mid notes, and 20% of your top notes. Again, 50 base, 30 mid, and 20 top. Now the reason for that is because I'm going after a strong, long-lasting, stronger perfume here, right? So 50%, so that is essentially half of my perfume, is going to be nothing but the then denser, thicker base notes. That allows me, that allows me to make my perfume more longer lasting, because half of it is nothing but the thicker, denser base notes, right? It has a fair amount of mid notes and it has a little bit of top notes, not much. With your top notes, I have a little tip for you. Try keeping your ratio less than 20%. 20% is the max you should go, because if your perfume is a lot of top notes, it's going to be nothing but excessive projection and excessive freshness, which fades out after like a couple of seconds or minutes at best. You definitely do not want that, okay? It's going to be impressive initially, but that's it. It's going to fade away really quick. So try keeping top notes under 20% and try experimenting between base and mid notes. Okay, for beginners, you can keep top notes at a standard of 20% fixed and experiment with base notes and mid notes. For this recipe, obviously, like I told you, it's 50 base, 30 mid, and 20 top. Now, what are the exact essential oils that we're going to be using? We're going to be using vanilla essential oil for our base note. We're going to be using two mid notes actually. So we're going to be using citronella and neroli in combination with each other, and that's going to make the heart of our perfume. That is the mid note, right? And we're going to be using grapefruit as the top note. So this is base, vanilla is base, citronella and neroli are mid notes, and grapefruit is going to be your top notes. Now, yes, we're going to be using just essential oils. We're not going to be using anything else. To keep this simple, this is going to be the first perfume that a lot of you are going to be making, or this is going to be the first time that a lot of you are going to see this actual process of making a perfume, which is why I haven't used anything which is too hard to get your hands onto. I haven't used any shady fragrance oils. You can definitely use them in combination with essential oils, but I have not. I have kept it simple. So 50% of base notes, that is 50% of vanilla, 50% of 10 ml. Why? Because remember, 90% of this is going to be nothing but alcohol. This is 100 ml, so we're left with 10 ml worth of concentration. So we need to divide 10 ml into these four in the desired ratio, which I've already told you about. So 50% of 10 ml, that is 5 ml, is going to be vanilla, right? 30% mid notes. Now we're going to be dividing equally amongst citronella and neroli. So 15% is going to be your citronella and 15% is going to be your neroli. That makes it 1.5 ml of citronella and 1.5 ml of neroli for your mid notes. And lastly, 20% of grapefruit, which is your top note, makes it 2 ml of grapefruit essential oil, and that is going to be our formula basically for this recipe. This recipe is totally free. You can use it, right? I'm giving away this recipe, and this is, if you decide to use this exact recipe, it's going to be a little bit orangish, a little bit citrusy, really fresh and sweet smelling. All right, that's how this perfume is going to turn out to be. This EDT that we're making, it's not really perfume, it's EDT, eau de toilette, since it's 10% concentration. We're going to be making it in this bottle. Before I continue, one last thing. Do you remember that I told you about these chemicals? Your diffusers, fixatives, and all that good stuff, right? Primarily your fixatives, diffusives. We talked about your distilled water, which is your solvent. And we talked about your carrier oil, which is DPG. Now, here's what I want you to do. There's two methods of doing things if you've been paying attention. Now, you could either go ahead and mix these chemicals along with your alcohol and along with your essential oils or fragrance components individually each time you make a perfume, or you can follow the second, more efficient method, which I'm going to tell you about. It's a secret method of mine, but it's sort of obvious, right? Now, these are the chemicals, these fixatives and diffusives, and your carrier oils and your solvents are the things which are universal, and you are supposed to, I recommend that you use them in every formulation you make. So why not just make a pre-mixed alcohol solution out of these? What I mean by that is, why not just take your alcoholic bottle, right, which has a little bit of space left on the top to accommodate all of your things that you're gonna be adding in, and why not just add your fixative, that is your electrolyte, and you add it to the alcohol bottle, and just like that you make a pre-mixed solution. You also add your distilled water and DPG right into your alcoholic bottle, and you give it a shake and make a pre-mixed solution. How does that sound? I think that is definitely 10 times more efficient, if I dare say so myself, than individually mixing it into each bottle that you're making. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to make a pre-mixed alcoholic solution. Now, your question might be, what percentage exactly? Like how much of what exactly goes in? Now, let me give an example. Let's say this is 1 liter of alcohol, right? Now, in 1 liter of alcohol, note this down, this is going to be very important. You take 5% of your DPG, which is your carrier oil, 5% of your DPG. Then, in 1 liter of alcohol, you take 5% of your distilled water. Then you take 2.5% of your electrolyte, and you take 2.5% of your ISO-E super. And that is going to be it. And you mix everything up in that respect. So again, let's go through this in a more thorough way. 5% in 1 liter of alcohol, 5% of your distilled water. So how much does that make it? If you calculate it, that makes it 50 ml of distilled water in 1 liter of alcohol, 5% of your carrier oil, that is your DPG, again 50 ml of DPG in 1 liter alcohol, 2.5% of galaxolide, that is 25% of galaxolide in your alcohol, and 2.5% of your fixative, that is your iso super, of your diffusive, excuse me, which is iso super, into your alcohol. Then you add all of that in, you give it a nice shake, and then you store it for 7 days in your refrigerator. Yes, that is what I want you to do. And that is the storing process is the exact reason why I'm not going to be able to show that to you right now, exactly because I already have it made, right? Because you need to store it for 7 days for it to be usable, because all of the things that you added are different in nature, they have different molecular weight, so you need to let them rest and mix well with each other. All right, which is why I already made this 7 days prior. Now it's been more than 10 days, in fact, that this has been resting in my refrigerator. So this pre-mixed alcohol solution with all the chemicals, your fixatives, diffusives, your solvents, and your carrier oils in, this is ready to use now. By the way, if you have any color, if you're using any color, that also needs to go in there instead of it going into your perfume bottle, individually. This is going to help with consistency of things, right? You will not have to worry about measuring things again and again. Or maybe you measured 1 or 2 ml here and there, because there's so many things to work with when you're making professional quality perfume. So this is a really great method. There's also one more advantage of using this method over the traditional dropping everything individually method, is that it helps reduce the alcoholic smell. But they do come with a disadvantage, and that is that they smell really foul. They smell like laboratory. They don't even smell like anything you should be using in a perfume. Now, alcoholic smell does go away when you make a perfume, but this method is going to help you further with that. When you store it for 7 days after making this pre-mixed alcoholic solution, you will notice that this smells much less foul. It smells much better and much more neutral than a new fresh bottle of the same alcohol if you have it. For example, I have it here. This is the same bottle of alcohol which I have here. And one thing that you're immediately going to notice if you smell both of them, if you compare it, that the new bottle smells like proper ethanol alcohol. It smells toxic, it smells foul. But the bottle that you made the pre-mixed solution in, right? It's a ready to use fixative, diffusive, and all of that good stuff added in packaged solution, which you can just pour in and make perfume instantly. And it doesn't smell as foul, not nearly as foul. So this is a method of increasing consistency, saving time, making a lot of bottles at once, right? This is a method of reducing the foul smell in your alcohol. So that is what I wanted to cover first before we actually make the perfume. Now we can finally make the perfume. I know this is getting long. I speak a lot. I talk a lot, but I need to, right? Even you will have to admit that was important. These are really important methods which not a lot of people are willing to really uncover and disclose, but I just want to help beginners out here. Okay, so let's actually make it. In the respective quantities, I'm just going to quickly add all of the essential oils in, starting from my base notes, going to the top note, then going to the mid notes, excuse me, then going to the top notes. Now I'm going to take my graduated pipette. This is the vanilla essential oil, which is our base note. Now we're supposed to take 5 ml of this. We measure 5 ml using our graduated pipette. Let me just hold it in. All right. There goes 3 ml. This is just a quick demonstration to show it to you guys. There goes 2 ml. So that makes it a total of 5 ml of vanilla essential oil, which is our base note, right? Now these pipettes, right? These are one-time use. I dropped in the vanilla. Now I'm going to throw it away. Did not attempt to reuse them in some other bottle, right? Just throw them away. Because if you do that, that's obviously going to pollute all of your components and they're going to smell like each other. You don't want that. So that's it for our base notes. I'm going to close the vanilla essential oil and I'm going to keep it back there. Now for our mid notes, we're going to be using obviously 2 of them, neroli and citronella, divided equally amongst each other. That makes it 1.5 ml of citronella first. Let me open it up. There we go. I'm gonna take another fresh pipette, not the same one, right? You don't want to pollute your essential oils. I'm gonna measure 1.5 ml exactly. There you go. And I'm gonna drop it into the bottle. I'm making it directly into the bottle which I am supposed to use. That is also a great practice. I could have made this in a beaker, but then again, then I'll have to drop it from the beaker into the bottle, which I'm supposed to use. So I decided to directly make it into the bottle. And everything is measured. Nothing is like estimates here. 1.5 ml of citronella, which is your first mid note that we're going to be using, has been dropped in. Keep the citronella oil back carefully. Now neroli, which is your second mid note, is what comes next. Now you notice I'm obviously not using the original droppers because they don't have any labels and markings on it, and I won't be able to know how much of what am I exactly putting in. So again, 1.5 ml of your neroli essential oil is what we're going to be putting in. That is it. That is going to be, it's actually a little more than I want, so I'm gonna, yeah, that's gonna do. That is 1.5 ml of neroli essential oil going in. So that's it for our mid notes, right? Now all that we're left with is our 20% of grapefruit, which is a top note. There you go. So 2 ml of grapefruit, that makes it. These calculations are really important. I want you to write these down as you do it. I'm not doing it right now simply because I want this video to end quickly and I don't want it to be like a 40-minute video. Now grapefruit grows in. It's going to be 2 ml, so I'm going to measure 2 ml. There you go, right? And it's going to go directly into our perfume bottle. That is it for our top note. Use top notes sparingly. Even if you decide to deviate from my personal ratios here, there's no problem with that, but don't overdo top notes. That's the only advice that I'm going to give you. Don't underdo the base notes and don't overdo the top notes. That's the only advice I'm going to give you. Don't go under 20% for base notes and don't go over 20% for top notes. That is the only rule that you should follow. So that is it. That is all of our notes and base, mid, and top notes added. So our own unique accord, which we have made here, it's gold colored, a little gold colored. Now, again, what's next? If you remember, we need to add all of these chemicals and our alcohol, but if you remember, I just told you to make this pre-mixed solution which already has all of those chemicals. It already has your carrier oil, your solvent, right? It already has everything, your fixatives, diffusives. So all I need to do, this is where it helps, is just add this into this, and I need to do nothing else. Otherwise I'll have to individually add all of these chemicals in. This is why I want you to do it. This is the main reason. And obviously it reduces the alcoholic smell. So this funnel now, which I wanted you to sort of invest in, goes in. Let me just straighten it up. And I'm going to open this bottle of premixed alcohol up. And I don't even need to measure anything now, right? Of how much alcohol am I putting in. Because this is obviously 10 ml. We measured it using our graduated pipettes. This is 10 ml worth of fragrance components. I just need to top the bottle up until the very top now. And it's obvious that's going to be 100 ml worth of perfume. So 90 ml of premixed alcoholic solution going in, right? do it a little carefully. You don't want to drop a lot of it, because obviously things are expensive. This is me adding in the alcohol. Just a little more. That's it, right? So with that, we have added in the alcohol, already mixed in with all of the good stuff, the chemicals that I told you about. Keep on giving this alcoholic solution a nice shake so that everything's nice and mixed up. So this is our perfume solution right now. I wouldn't even call it a perfume. Now this is actually too long for this, so I'm going to cut it up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it up till here, maybe. Yeah, till here would be fine. Alright, I just use scissors to cut that up. That is looking more proper. I'm just going to close this. Right, tighten it up. I'm going to give it a firm shake for 15 seconds or so. Alright, you get the idea. Let everything mix up. There you have it. And that is essentially your own unique formula. Now, if you look at it carefully, that doesn't look professional at all, right? Because this is not nearly as ready as it could be, and as it should be. Now, the only thing that's left is the resting process. You need to let it rest for a couple of weeks, for at least 4 weeks, 30 days. Now, within 2 days, you're going to notice that this milky looking, unprofessional looking, homemade looking perfume is going to go from this milky, cloudy solution to this. Now, if you remember, I told you about this in the previous video. These two are the exact same solutions. I first made a little 10 ml sample and tried to smell it, and it smelled really good. So I decided that, hey, you tell you what, I'm just going to give away this little recipe for my course video that I'm going to do. And that is exactly what I did. Now made the 100 ml version in front of you right now. Now look at the difference. This one's so clear that you might not even want to believe it, that these are actually the same formulation, right? Because this has been allowed to rest for 4 weeks, while this one, I just made it in front of you. Within 3 to 4 days, 2 to 4 days, anywhere from 2 to 4 days, this is going to go from this cloudy mess, this, not so transparent mess, to this professional looking clear perfume. It's as clear, it is as clear as water, right? And there's also something more which is going to happen when during the resting phase. That is, the scent is going to get much stronger, like 70 to 80% stronger. Right now, even if you smell it, let me try smelling it. Yes, it does smell, like you can tell it definitely does, but it's not nearly as strong, not nearly as projective. So yeah, that tells me the scents have not all mixed in with the alcohol and the chemicals, and they're still in the process of dilution. So definitely do not skip this step. Let it rest. Right now, this is a totally incomplete product. Even if you smell it on you right now, it's going to smell like a very inferior version of what the final product is going to smell like. Yeah, it does smell like the final version in the little 10 ml bottle that I have, but it's definitely inferior because we haven't let it rest. So let it rest. That is also a basic rule of perfumery. Let things rest. Do not skip this step. So that was it. So what's next? Next is just me trying to give you a few references as to a couple of websites that you could go to in particular, which are really good for beginners. and I'm going to leave the links down in the description. Now, the websites are Fragrantica and Perfumer's Apprentice. Have some really beginner friendly stuff and even some advanced stuff that you can read through. They are really good. The content there is really targeted towards beginners and people who are starting out. So do give them a visit. And that is going to be it for this course. Thank you guys for connecting with us. Thank you guys for checking this course out, for checking the videos out. I hope all of this was helpful and it was informative. Leave a comment down there. Again, visit our Facebook or Instagram. Check us out there. And that is going to be it for this series. Thank you so much again for connecting with us.